The Tao of Self-Confidence, episode 437. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits. Well, hello, friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap-Chan, and today I have a phenomenal lady on the show today. She's the executive editor for HuffPost in UK, and she's also an author, and I'm really excited to have her on to share her story with us on self-confidence. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce you to Poorna Bell. Poorna, how are you today? Maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to our listeners.
Thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I'm great. And I think to fill in a little bit more about myself, what I do is, so I work as executive editor for HuffPost UK. What that means is that I manage two teams here. One is our life team. So it deals with lifestyle, parents, tech, style. And also I deal with the blogs team, which pulls together all of our opinion that covers the news agenda and just what people are generally talking about. And I've also just come out with my first book called Chase the Rainbow.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what's your cultural background?
My cultural background is I'm Indian, South Indian. My parents are originally from there, and I was brought up in the UK, but I go back there pretty much about once a year.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what would be your favorite self-confidence quote?
I think my favorite self-confidence quote is, I don't know that I have a particular one because I follow a lot of people on Instagram and there's a lot out there at the moment. But I think my favorite quotes are the ones where you acknowledge that everything is not necessarily that great, but you're still going to keep on going. So rather than this kind of catch-all umbrella of, oh, life is amazing, or you should turn lemons into lemonade, it's more about like, so there's this one quote that's about, my sock is falling off my shoe and there's a stone at the bottom of it, but I'm still going to pretend that everything's fine. And I guess that is some of my approach in that, things may be going wrong behind the scenes, but actually, I'll try and give off that everything is absolutely working out is exactly as I planned it.
Awesome. Well, that's a great quote that you mentioned. And, it's true, right? Sometimes social media can feel like you see everyone's life and it looks great, not knowing what it looks behind closed doors. And, sometimes when we can just be more real and realize, not every day is butterflies and cupcakes. But we always know there's something good that can come out of it. So I really love that you mentioned that quote. And in your own words, how do you define self-confidence?
I think that self-confidence is, so there are two things actually. I think that there is the part of yourself that's fairly internal. And I think that, it's your own monologue, right? That a lot of us have, which can consist of things that we feel really good about ourselves, but also there can be, a fair amount of doubt in that as well. And I think for me, my feeling around it is that it's about how you keep those things in check. So, how you balance out and remember the things about yourself that are really good. So one of the things that I do is I keep a gratitude diary, or I keep a journal in which, yes, I may talk about the stuff that I'm really worried about or that I'm concerned about, but actually I also make sure that I touch in with what I'm really grateful for and the really positive things in my life. But also the other half of self-confidence is being able to harness that. So being able to harness the things that you're strong at or that you're good at. And it's about how you then present that to, the outside world. So whether that's the one person that you're talking to, whether it's a room full of people, and it's about for me, it's about, yes, I'm absolutely going to come into a meeting and have doubts about something, but it's also about tapping into the things that I know that I'm really strong on. And even if there is stuff that I'm really not that strong on, or that I may have doubts about something, that I just push those aside and just actually just push through with my agenda, so that it doesn't matter, how the meeting necessarily goes, because there are people that, or even if it's not a meeting, it's a conversation that you're having with someone, because there are so many variables that you can't control, but it's about thinking about what I want at the end of that and what my personal goals are out of an interaction. And I think just making sure that I keep that in mind regardless of what might go wrong. And I think it's basically coming across with the reassurance that even if things go wrong, that you can actually handle them.
Thanks for sharing that. And, those are some great definitions that you mentioned. especially, knowing like we all have setbacks. It's just learning, how to get back up every time we fall down that really counts the most. I think that's something that we need to remind ourselves that, right? Because things will happen. Sometimes we can't control, but we can control how we can react to it. So thanks for sharing that. And what was your life like before your discovery of self-confidence?
I think that I've always been quite talkative as a person. So I think that I sometimes use being talkative as a way to mask how I actually feel about something. So before I really felt confident about things or self-confident, I think that I would go into situations where I wasn't necessarily very prepared for things. So I probably came across as being a bit more confident than I may have felt inside. But what I figured out the hard way was, it's just simple things like turning up to an appointment and not allowing enough time. So stuff like that really unnerves you actually, and it makes you come across as being unprepared. And the way I would describe it is it kind of shifts your center so that you're feeling less stable within yourself. And I think that before I was also confident about my abilities, I also would get into conversations. So whether that was conversations about your salary, about, your particular title at work, and would just accept that, oh, okay, well, that's what's being offered, and that's what's on the table, and I should be glad that I have a job, or I should be glad that this person has seen fit to hire me for X, Y, and Z, whatever the role is. And actually what I've realized, this is the most valuable thing that I've learned now, is that the other person on the table, so whether that's a job that you're going for or whether that's a collaboration, the other person kind of needs you as much as you need them. And so it's about getting that right level of balance in that, I would never go into something feeling really arrogant, but by that same token, I would also not go into something feeling really underprepared or to feel like, oh my God, if that person like picks me, then wow, I'm really lucky. And there's a lot that I have to be lucky for and grateful for. But I also know that luck only gets you so far. So, a lot of success or, things that I've achieved, yes, have been greatly down to opportunity, but also it's what you then do with that opportunity. So I think that what the biggest lesson that I have learned is to go into a situation now and actually go in there confident of my abilities. Because if I don't go in there confident of my abilities, I'm not really bringing my full self to the table, and I'm allowing someone else to completely dictate how we're going to work together. And I think that revolutionized how I approach different conversations with people, whether it's for work or in my personal life.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. And what was that moment in your life when you realized, like, you did have more to offer, especially, in conversations like this, learning, like, you don't have to accept what was offered to you, knowing that you have more worth than you realize. Like, what was that aha moment?
The aha moment was actually when I became a senior manager and I started recruiting myself. So when we were actually recruiting in the company, and I realized how hard it was to find good people, people who have, yes, the necessary skill set, but also fit into your team. And I think that on that front, what I realized was that actually I've been that person on the other side of the table. And I could see how nervous people were coming into interviews and so on. And actually, I really wanted to say to them, which unfortunately I couldn't, was, relax and don't worry about it and be yourself, because we actually need you as much as you need us. Like, we need your skills or the attitude that you're going to bring to work. And so I think that really for me was a revelation. It also in terms of, I think, just getting older and understanding that, the skills that you bring to a job, yes, maybe when you're at a certain level, you're competing with a lot more people. But actually, if you're really good at what you do, or if you're good at what you do and you display initiative and, you've got the right attitude and you're a pleasant person to work with or an easy person to work with, you'd be surprised at how far that actually gets you. So for me, that was a big aha moment.
Thanks for sharing that. That's a great lesson to learn, right? Especially when it comes to, like you mentioned, doing interviews and stuff and not realizing, like, you've been picked for a reason and, just show them who you truly are and why you want to be here. And, when they can see like that enthusiasm or that passion, they'll want you, right? They'll want to work with you. They'll want to, find ways to have you on board, whatever it is, right? And because of that realization, what's your life been like now?
I think my life is a lot more authentic. So I would just say that, some people have a work personality and some people have a personal life personality. And I'm not saying that, there are scenarios that you might catch me in at work, which if you knew me in my personal life, you'd probably be surprised at. But probably just because I like to goof off a lot in my personal life. And I guess when you see me in my professional life, don't get me wrong, I really like to have a laugh. But also, I have to be at a certain level of professionalism and come into meetings prepared and so on. And I just think that when I figured out that the two things don't have to be completely separate, and actually the more you can merge your work personality with your home personality, you're actually tapping into some of your biggest strengths. So you're tapping into the things that actually make you you. And what I've discovered is being able to do that means that it may not seem like it, because depending on where you work, I guess, you may have to put on a certain persona. But actually, I think that the people that I've seen who get ahead quickly and also who get ahead the most are people who come across as being authentic, or not even who come across as being authentic, but who are authentic. Because I think that people underestimate how far that can get you compared to putting on a front about yourself. And I think that, people aren't stupid. And I think that if they know that when they're interacting with you, that they're getting the real you, I think, and tapping into what your self-confidence is about, I think that just strengthens confidence, actually.
Thanks for sharing that. And I love how you mentioned, being able to merge your work and personal life and just becoming a more authentic version of yourself. Because I think, just authenticity is something that's really missing in this world. And the more we're more vulnerable and just more authentic, people will be drawn to us because they just see what's real. So thanks for sharing that. And what would be that one tip you would give to her?
The one self-confidence tip I would give is to be yourself. And I know that sounds like a really lazy thing to say in terms of being yourself. But what I mean by that specifically is it's about being able to capitalize on the things that you really love doing and to recognize the things that you are really good at doing. And I think that women specifically, we have this rhetoric where we like to tell ourselves about the things that we can't do a lot. And I think if you can somehow keep reassuring yourself, and that reassurance really does have to come from yourself rather than seeking that validation constantly from outside sources. But if you can remind yourself about the things that you do and the things that you do really, really well, and you can do that quite regularly, I think that gives you a strength that it doesn't matter whether someone criticizes you or someone says, oh, you can't do this, or you can't do that. If that reassurance and that confidence comes from yourself, that just gives you the strength to deal with a lot of challenging situations.
Thanks for sharing that. And those were great tips that you mentioned. And if our listeners wanted to get to know a little bit more about you and what you do, or check out your book, is there any links or social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, so I've got a website called poornabell.com, and also you can catch me on Twitter and Instagram with the handle Poorna Bell.
Thanks for sharing that. And to our listeners, if you want to connect with Poorna, you can also head on over to the taoofselfconfidence.com and search for Poorna's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else that we talked about. And I just really want to thank Poorna for taking the time to share her story and tips with us on self-confidence. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not a problem. It's great having you on the show. And to our listeners, be on the lookout for another new episode of another amazing woman's journey to self-confidence. And we'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to another amazing episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit our website at thetaoofselfconfidence.com to check out cool resources, blog articles, show recaps, and so much more. Your inner journey to self-confidence awaits.